Call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay. Before we begin, I'd like to note that today's GGC agenda has been amended. We're going to talk about a matter in item 7. After item 7.1. Do I need a mover for that? Okay. Okay. I don't think I need a mover.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I thought you said you did. I'm sorry.
So, would you like, can I get a mover for the special minutes of January 15, 2018? So moved. All in favor? The regular minutes of January 22nd, 2018? Okay, all in favor? And the special minutes of January 29th, 2018? Mover, all in favor? Okay, so on the consent agenda, I have items 4.4, 4.6, 4.7, 410, and 411. Are there any other items to be pulled? If not, can I get a mover for the remainder of the agenda? Moved, all in favor? Okay. So I believe Councilor Jordan, item 4.4.
Yes, thank you. That's on the electric vehicle charging stations. And I think this is good that we're moving here. Who am I? Okay, good. I'm just, excuse me, I wasn't clear when residents would have the opportunity to use them. Is it just when non-working hours?
Outside of 8:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday. So in evenings and on weekends, we have access for the public.
And where would that be? Just at the locations here that we have?
At each of the locations that we've identified, you should also note that we are introducing electrical vehicle charging stations at the McLean Community Center and at the LD Recreation Center, both as part of capital projects. We are doing the McLean Community Center parking lot this year. As part of that, we are introducing electric vehicle charging stations, and at the LD Recreation Center, as part of the capital project, we're introducing them there as well. But based on the program and the incentives that we're applying for at ACC Town Hall and Fire Hall and the Operations Center, there is a specific emphasis on signage relating to employee specific, because that is the incentive program in terms of what they're promoting through this program.
Okay, so how many in total will we have? Or do you have this?
There's 14 as part of this, and then we have a couple at ARC and MCC, so we're 18 to 20 stations that we will have at town facilities across the country.
What about Pat Bailey Square? Have we thought about that? We own part of the parking lot.
Actually, later on in the presentation, there is a discussion on the lease for Pat Bailey Square. I don't believe that there are dedicated parking spaces for electric vehicle charging stations for the town. I'm not sure if the infrastructure is being planned as part of the development or not, but Ms. Bridgman may be looking to include it later in the agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, Councilor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Mr. Meredith. And from the report, I understand that this is only for employee parking where there's 10 or more full-time employees.
Right.
Okay, so that's why it's not at Audi Rec Center in McLean.
It will be at the Recreation Center and McLean as part of separate capital projects that are underway in 2000.
They don't qualify for this grant, though? This 80% funding?
They're not. They weren't designated specifically for employees. So as part of this program, they are dedicated for
employees only. Okay.
Sorry, employees only, Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30.
Do we have any employees currently that own an electric vehicle? Not a hybrid, but a full electric vehicle. I see the chief nodding.
Fire has one.
Fire has one. Do we have any others?
I'm not.
I see Tim nodding back there. So okay, so we haven't done a survey and seen how many people will actually benefit from this. This is in the hope that more people will take advantage if we provide it.
I think That's sort of the intent of the program, especially on the electrical vehicle side, is the fact that it's a chicken and egg scenario whereby you're building infrastructure and building capacity.
Yeah, it's like bike lanes, it's like transit, it's like maybe libraries, I don't know, like, I get it. What about, I'm on the understanding that the $14,000 rebate ended December 31st. So there is no longer a provincial rebate for electric vehicles. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that 100%. I know when I've gone and spoken to different manufacturers through the EV charging station that there was the hopes of the intent that the program was going to continue on. I don't know if that's a formality through the provincial
I
government.
think
or
it's
not.
all part of trying to balance the budget. And just, I don't think the uptake was there, or the vehicles were still too expensive even with the rebate, my understanding, but can we confirm that? I only know because I looked into getting one before Christmas, and I was told if you're going to, you gotta get it by, and get your application done and approved and get your check before the end of the year, or it's not gonna happen.
We can definitely get the information in terms of the rebate program that the
Okay.
province is offering.
I'm all for spending this. I'm guessing this is not in the budget so far because the funding was just announced.
The funding was announced at the beginning of January 18, so we would not have identified
Right.
it through the capital forecast process.
I'm all for it, the 41,000, the 20%, whatever it was. However, I want to make sure just that we're going to have the commitment first before we go ahead. That's the, like, we're going to apply, we're going to get approved, we're going to get commitment from the provincial government first before we go ahead and start any of this project. That,
Well, we wouldn't proceed without the provincial funding.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Carter, would you like to move that?
I'll move that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, Councilor Collier, 4.6,
Oh, which one's that?
protecting water for future generations, growing the green belt in the outer ring, Town of Ajax comment.
This is just, I'm a bit frustrated with this because this will now be the 4th time we've made this comment if my math works. We did it in 2015, we did it again in 16 when they made a change, we did it through a motion last year in 17, and now we're doing it again today. So this is the 4th time we're asking, through our comments, that we encourage the province to protect in the white belt and include them in it. Have we had any feedback from the other 3 times?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's just really frustrating dealing with this group that supposedly is tasked with protecting water, and that nothing's happening. And this sort of ties in with their issues at the sewage treatment plant as well. Are we aware of our MPP doing anything to bring this forward?
Again, not that I'm aware of.
Have we followed up?
No, but I can do that.
Okay. I don't think I had a lot of questions. I just,
I'll get to you. Our comments shared
Yeah, that was-
with our MPP.
They haven't yet, but we can send them.
I would just add that, I guess.
Yep.
Hopefully that's a friendly amendment, just that we solicit that and find out what's happening at the local level as well
Absolutely.
regarding this. Thank you. Thank you.
Regional Councilor Jordan.
Well, I agree. We've been saying this for a long time. Let's hope that the more we say it, the more the public does, because the public's been very involved in stating that they feel it should be part of the green belt, that hopefully the province will listen. I just want to ask the deadline on comments as far as this posting.
So the deadline's March 7th.
March 7th. So the things that we're doing with the public that will be submitted through this process as well.
That's
And I wanted to just, say, I think hopefully, I think that other groups are involved as well, Ontario Nature and so on, that we should be copying them on this report as well.
I can send comments.
Someone would have that list of groups. And I'll move that.
Move it. All in favor?
Can I?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were agreeing
Just
with
sleeping? Or?
Councilor Jordan.
Well, a couple of comments. First of all, I think the 4th recommendation should be, or part of the 3rd recommendation should be, that it be distributed to the leaders of all the opposition parties and their respective critics for municipal affairs and environment and climate change. And certainly to all our MPP and all registered candidates in the Ajax riding. I think that it's very important that not just the government, but all of the parties in the upcoming election are aware of our position on this. And of course, I agree that we should add all of the NGOs and environmental groups that we have previously copied and have been working in cooperation with. The only, and I would move that as an amendment, the only other comment I'd make is that council may or may not be aware that we fought this issue at the time of the last Durham Region Comprehensive Review. And we kind of fought this to a stalemate, whereby the approved provision was that this area, the Carruthers Headwaters, would not be considered for urbanization until a full comprehensive watershed study had been completed, which everyone knows is ongoing by the TRCA, and until a level of development had happened in the Seton area. But there's no doubt that this matter will be brought forward again in the upcoming Durham Official Plan Comprehensive Review, which is scheduled to start, if not this year, very early next year, and based on my experience, will take place over a number of years. These things do not tend to happen very quickly. But in the interim, the land that was assembled in the headwaters by Roehampton Farms, which was a bucolic euphemism for the partnership of Runnymede and Tribute, has been sold to a company called Dorsey. Now, we in this community, I don't think, have any experience with Dorsey, but they are a large developer and they're already very active in trying to get this property urbanized. And I think it's important to note that Dorsey was active in the last municipal election and made financial contributions to the campaign of Regional Chair Anderson, Mayor Ryan of Pickering, Councillor Pickles, Councillor Ash, and I think one other Pickering councillor. So they are very active behind the scenes. I don't know what financial, political contribution record they have with the provincial parties, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they have a relationship of some kind of financial contribution with at least one or more of the provincial parties. So because of that, this matter is not just one of planning and academic input, and I feel that our input has been consistent and is very strong with respect to the appropriateness of putting this in the Greenbelt, but this is also a very, very political matter, and the politics of it has to be pursued actively in the provincial election and in the municipal election, because people should know that there are other factors at stake, and we have had recent reminders of some of the backroom things that happen in politics, and this is, in my view, another example.
Okay, so two things. Sorry, did you have?
No.
Oh, maybe,
Just-
are we clear on the mayor's further amendments in terms of the expansion? Okay, sorry.
Just on that, you're not allowed to take contributions from corporations this time around. How can we track who's donating? Because I expect that people will find ways around that. Do we know the principles of the company?
I think that should be
Well,
directed to
I'll-
the clerk or
I'll
the
direct it to the clerk, and that's to the mayor's point. you think that there may have been further, whether they're provincial, or, I'm sorry, Pickering or provincial members that may have taken donations. Is there a way of finding that information out and reporting back to council?
Sorry, pardon me. Contributions in the past, or
Yeah,
are we talking about
the mayor had
Last
indicated
election.
that in the last election,
Right.
certain councillors and probably provincial representatives have taken donations from this group. Can you find out for sure who they are and maybe report back to the council on that?
Yeah, I can look into that. All the municipal financial statements from municipal candidates are public documents,
Okay.
so any contribution over $100 would be reported on
Sure.
those financial statements.
Okay.
As far as provincial contributions, I'm not sure how publicly available that information is, but we can look into it.
Okay.
They're clearly not as transparent as we are. Although they set the rules, but they don't apply to themselves.
Can't trust anyone.
I think to follow up Councilor
Need-
Jordan's
yeah.
question, though, that in the last municipal election, corporate donations were allowed, and this year, the new rules apply. There's a higher limit, but the limits, corporations can't do them. But corporations can, in fact, act through individual members of the corporation, their board of directors, their senior employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Councilor Jordan asked the very relevant question is, how do we track that, and can we track that, and how easy is it to track that?
So to that question, you're quite right, that is kind of a way around it, and that to a large degree has already happened in past municipal elections where a proprietor for a certain business will donate as an individual. So like I said, on the Form 4, which is the candidate financial statement, any contribution over $100 has to be reported on that financial statement, so that's where we get all the information about who contributed to whose campaign. There are kind of a few things that go unreported, like contributions under $100, or for example, buying a ticket to a fundraiser that might be in excess of that amount that maybe isn't captured as a cash donation. And then I would just point out that corporations, while they cannot donate to candidates, they can still donate to third-party advertisers.
I guess my question, sorry, losing my voice, is can we track who the owners or directors of the corporation is, so that if we see that name on a contribution?
Well, yeah, I suppose if somebody wanted to go researching for that information, they could. I'm not sure that really falls within kind of the duties of the clerk as far as policing contributions for the election. That would be maybe for somebody to bring a complaint before the Compliance Audit Committee, but we don't really get into that type of enforcement type stuff as the returning officers.
The new legislation is kind of going to make it a little more difficult. The other question, can we check if a corporation like that is donated to any conservation foundation?
A conservation foundation? I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Just going to indicate the corporation by law are required to file information that lists the officers and directors of a corporation. So we could do a profile search on a particular corporation, see who their directors are or their officers. Wouldn't give you employees, and it may not even be the people who are actually in control of the corporation, but we could get some names.
Good to know.
Did you have something?
I know we can, and I was going to say just run a corporate profile, but I don't think it's appropriate to ask our staff to do that, and I don't think it's within our mandate to be researching. I mean, we can do that if you want to do it, or Steve wants to do it, or Colleen wants to do it. Spend the $35 and pull the corporate profile and do it on your own, but this is not something we should be directing staff to do.
Okay, so there are two amendments. The first one was the expansion, right? And you have the wording of that.
Just to distribute to.
Okay.
Yeah, to distribute to all opposition MPPs, or at least the environment critics, which I think is...
Leaders, critics for municipal affairs, critics for environment and climate change, and our local MPs and all candidates in the riding of HS.
And
What's
also
these?
NGOs.
Yes.
that have been, that we've been working with, the other part.
Okay, so that's the first part. So I'll split it up into two. So if we, who wants to move that? Actually, the mayor's going to move that. All in favor? Okay, so that carries. So, Councilor, could you just repeat what your amendment to the?
No, it was all the NGOs.
Okay, so where did this further information research come from?
Oh, I didn't make an amendment. I was just asking if
Okay.
that could be done.
Okay, okay, so
I
that's
just
the
wanted
question.
to know for the future.
All right. Okay. So, a motion to pass it as amended then, 4.6? All in favor? Okay, that carries. Okay, so item 4.7,
That's me.
Councilor Jordan?
Let me just get to the page.
41.
Excuse me. I asked some questions, and actually I emailed them to Mr. Sawchuk, and I know Ms. Strain came into that conversation. I know this is on the development charges rebate, but the whole motive is to encourage more affordable rental units. And of course, being on the task force at the region, I'm very interested in this. I wonder, do you have the list rather than me go through them, or should I?
The list of questions you provided?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
And then maybe if Ms. Strain could jump in, because there was some on the multi-res tax as well. Just, I think other people might want to know. Here's one. What percentage of DCs are currently exempted in our CIP areas?
So both CIPs in the downtown and in Pickering Village, they're structured so they're somewhat tiered. And in the downtown, there can be a full rate rebate, 100%, there can be 75% or 50%, and it depends on the criteria. Pickering Village is similar. 50% of the rebate is for mixed-use buildings that are over 2 stories, and then the other 50% is available if more than 60% of the parking is located below ground or in a structure. So in each of those programs, the rebates are only for the local portion of the development charges.
So we could look at expanding that. The other one, I won't ask you the one about the multi-res, I'll try to go down there. I asked, could the rebate apply to a certain number of units in a building rather than the entire building or development?
Yes, so this program allows for a large amount of flexibility. So in the sort of parameters that we set out, we could determine if we want to keep it limited to a few units within a building. We could also determine if there would be certain characteristics of the units, let's say if they were accessible units or if they were somewhat affordable units. We could really determine which units the program would apply to.
I think the limit I thought was awfully high, 175% of average monthly rent seems awfully high. That's the high end.
So that's the program threshold. There's no ability for the program to apply to anything above 175% of average market rent. But we, through our own program, can take that threshold down. So we could apply any number below the 175%.
So 175% doesn't seem very affordable to me. And the other one, what I asked, does the province own any land in our municipality?
And there's, I was trying to look into the sort of meaning behind the question, and I think it's because the province had made some statements about using provincially owned land for affordable housing projects, and there's nothing in town in terms of redevelopment land that the province owns.
I asked that because that was through the Affordable Housing Task Force at the region as well, to look at that in municipalities. And then on the rental, I wanted to know if Medallion benefited from the multi-residential tax reduction.
Through the chair, as council will be aware, the province mandated a new multi-residential tax ratio that had to be between 1 and 1.1. And the region did implement that in July of 2017 and was implemented at 1.1. So that's a tax ratio. And that 1.1 is as compared to where residential is 1. So we don't have any properties for 2018 that are in that category. The building aid medallion will not be in the new category. It has to be for building permits issued after April 21st, 2017, but no one can tell me which building permit. So building B, we don't have clarification on. Future buildings will be in the new multi-res category.
So we don't have clarification on building B. When will we have clarification?
That will probably happen when the assessment comes in, and there'll be questions on when that happened. And we are still off the province. We're working with the region to try and get clarification on which permit they're talking about.
And I wondered, gave the difference. I wondered if we had a sense of how much difference that could make on the rent of, say, a two-bedroom. Like if we could compare Medallion's rent on a two-bedroom or whatever you want to use with the current tax rate and if the reduction was applied. What I'm getting at is how much of a difference in affordability does it really make, if any?
Well, there will be higher taxes on the, well, it will be the same taxes on the existing multi-res. There'll be lower property taxes on the new multi-res. They should be transferring that cost of tax to their tenants. It should be part of their rent calculation. So it may be that it would impact them positively.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. It should be,
Yes.
but will it be? And how can we determine that? I mean,
Well, it's a private organization that's running those. It's their business. So it'd be part of their business model should include the lower taxes and the lower rates.
is there a way that we can look at that? What my concern is that obviously that's being shifted to the residential taxpayer. So you would want some sort of guarantee that you're getting a reduction on your tax rate. And the whole motive of that is to have more affordable rents. In actuality, is it doing that?
It should, but I don't know that we could step into a private enterprise and request that type of information.
Well, maybe as we're going along, if we can follow those things and see if they actually do work to do what they're intended to do.
Well, I think the intention is to create them, not necessarily manage the rental charges of them.
Councilor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Not sure if, I'm just trying to find, I wasn't going to pull this, but there it is. Program flexibility, since we can choose between 50%, 25%, 75%, 100%, why wouldn't everybody just do 100%?
Well, I think a large part of it is trying to stretch the funds as far as they can possibly go. So if we were to apply 100% rebate, obviously it would be applicable to far less units and you run the risk of putting everything towards one development. If you provide a lesser amount of rebate, it stretches a little further, there may be the potential to go to multiple developments.
Okay, well, considering we don't really have any now, do we as a town own any property that would be suitable?
That would be suitable for
For
redevelopment?
any kind of multi-unit, any kind of low-income, something that we are marketing currently? I know we have a report coming next GGC, I think it is, regarding our town assets, any vacant land we own. Do we have anything that would be suitable for any kind of development?
I'm not sure about that. I know that there are a number of rental projects in the works that this program would be applicable to.
Okay.
So I don't think we would need to go the way of looking at our own available lands for that purpose. I think if this program is implemented and we're successful in getting the funds, we would have plenty of projects in the next 5 years that we could put funds towards.
And just, I didn't really understand from reading it exactly the process, but we'll know up front exactly what funding we have available before we make any commitments.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you want to move that? Okay, all in favor?
Nope, I moved.
Okay, item 410, the Town of Ajax role in the governance of AMHC.
Yes. I asked, I pulled this because this has been on my mind that we need to do this as soon as we can. But I want to ask about, it gives that we have a majority to change bylaws and so on. What's needed to just change the name without going through the discussions with the region?
So my understanding, and I hope Ron will jump in if I have this wrong, but a change to the name would require a change to the letters patent, which requires a number of things. So it does require the region's permission as service manager. Also would require a special resolution of the board, which would have to be ratified by 2/3 of the membership. So these are sort of the technical details we haven't really got to yet, but rest assured, certainly part of our kind of main priority in moving in this direction is to pursue or encourage a bit of a rebranding of AMHC to try and kind of mitigate some of that public confusion over what the town's role is in those operations.
And do we have any sense of the timeline? Because I know we've raised this over a number of years, the timeline that we might come back with a whole positive answer that we can actually do this.
Right, so I'm not sure I have like a firm answer to that. I'd like to start working on it right away, certainly. I think the pace of how it moves forward is really going to be contingent on the kind of cooperation that we get from the region, but also the AMHC Board of Directors and kind of how they envision their future. There's a number of different paths that this could go down, and whichever one is chosen, I think, will kind of determine the complexity and the pace of how fast it moves along. I would envision we would hopefully come back certainly within the next like 6 months or so with a more kind of technical report on the path forward. Certainly my goal would be to have this thing all wrapped up while we have the benefit of Ron Hawkshaw's expertise, because I think he's kind of the only person that really understands the origins of this unique relationship, so that's kind of what I'm working towards. But I'm not sure I can give you kind of like a hard timeline.
Okay, well, I hope, the sooner the better in my mind.
So just FYI, the board is in receipt of the letter. There wasn't quorum at the last meeting, so there wasn't really a discussion on it. Mr. Hawkshaw, was there anything else you wanted to add, or she got it?
Nicole had the information correct.
Okay. Move it. All in favor? Okay, the final item, item 411, additional delegated authority during the lame duck period. Councilor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Mrs. Cooper. The lame duck period, and nobody knows what's going to happen going on here, but it says if 6 of 7 of us aren't running again, automatically we're a lame duck as of July, what was it, 19th or something?
27th.
27th, okay. How does that work with the timeline for our CAO recruitment? Because you speak to it at the very end, but it doesn't give any kind of dates as to where we fall.
Right. So just to clarify one thing off the top, it's not if 6 aren't running again, it's if 6 have, a minimum of 6 have to have the possibility of returning to council. So if
Right.
6 are running, but they're running for the same races, then that's different, right? There has to be 6 that have the potential to return all in individual seats. As far as the CAO recruitment.
That's interesting, okay.
Yeah. So as far as the CAO recruitment, so a CAO would need to be selected before the lame duck kicks in. Something like, so the start date could be negotiated to be within the lame duck period or afterwards, but the person would have to be selected and have kind of the formality of their appointment nailed down before that lame duck starts, which I believe is the plan anyway.
What is our proposed date now? Do we know? I'm sorry, Lorna's not here. Does Rob know what the proposed
I think it's
date
supposed
is?
to come to GGC no later than an early June date. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, through the chair, I think May is kind of the target if everything goes, but most definitely it'll be, council will have the decision on it.
Okay.
Final meeting.
All right, as long as it's before then. Now, the other thing was the Central Park development. And I know we can't probably talk a lot about it, but timing-wise, if something comes in the time when we're off, I wouldn't want to see that project held up, so. how does that fit?
Through the chair, I'd probably not rather answer that today, I think just because of the situation, but council is, staff's very aware of lame duck and what that does on a few of the projects we're working on, so, as things unfold, we may be back again for further, provisions or whatever, but I think at this point it's a little early. There's a couple of projects out there that might require some additional delegation to staff.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. You move it?
I'll move it.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, so section 5.1, Ajax Urban Forestry Update 2018.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm just here today to provide a brief overview of where we are to date in 2018 and what we concluded in 2017 as it relates to the Ajax Urban Forestry Management Plan. Just quickly before we get started, in 2011, this council approved the Urban Forest Management Plan, and it has been a guiding document for us for a lot of the initiatives and recommendations we have been working through moving forward. I think I've shared just through conversations with many members of council, but Ajax is still leading the way within the region as we stand for a lot of urban forest initiatives. And like I said, I'm very proud of that, and I think council should be very proud of that as well. So with that said, the intent of this report is to provide some updates on what we've done in 2017 and what we're moving forward with in 2018. So a few of the items, as you have in the report that was circulated, we're monitoring and implementing the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan still. We're working on developing a climate adaptation plan. Scheduled maintenance activities such as block pruning and watering programs will be discussed as well. Implementation of a restoration and tree planting plan and programs related to education and awareness. So as you know, Emerald Ash Borer has been a huge part of Ajax's urban forestry protocol since 2012 when it was first discovered. We have been treating trees, removing trees within our parks and our streets, and as of 2016, we've also been removing trees within our woodlots. We are coming to the very end of our Emerald Ash Borer management program. A lot of our ash trees have been removed. As you can see from the report, a lot of trees are no longer being treated. The treatment did slow down the removal of trees, but we, just through discussions with other colleagues, and I mentioned in previous discussions at council, that we don't believe we caught the Emerald Ash Borer insect early enough, and that's why trees are still having to be removed and we can't be saved. But it has delayed it and slowed down our costs, which has been beneficial. Woodlots, this is something that I said we've been doing since 2016. We're looking at target trees that would impact private property and or town infrastructure, pathways, fences, things like that. But that's where we're at right now, and really we're working in our park system, removing trees from our open space where ash trees are growing. We're developing an urban and a climate adaptation plan. This has been something that's come forward. As you know, we've dealt with the ice storm in 2013. I will never forget that year, 13-14. And in 2016, we had a drought, and in 2017, we've had flooding. So specifically to the urban forest management, the urban forest and climate study will examine the threats to the urban forest based on species and plant hardiness, areas susceptible to heat island effect, areas where climate change will impact some of the species that we have and may put them at risk, pathways of potential invasive species, so any new invasives that may come through as a result of climate change, some wetland and other sensitive areas that we have in town that may be susceptible to drought and impact substantially, and again, looking at any tree conflicts that may exist between private and or public utilities such as hydro corridors. We have scheduled maintenance activities planned for 2018. Again, we're block pruning many of our streets. We notify residents prior to us coming, and we're trying to improve the overall health of the tree for long term. And we've also implemented a tree watering program that's new this year, which is gator bags. You may have seen them in some of the dedication trees. It's a bag that's placed at the base of the tree. It's filled with water, and the water percolates down to the newly planted tree. It saves us, in most cases, it saves us a lot of time and energy having to go back as frequent to water the trees. In 2017, though, we had such a large amount of water, as you're aware, in the early spring, and it carried on through into late summer that we didn't actually have to fill those bags and utilize them to the potential that we thought we would, but we are planning on using them in 2018. We do have continued replanting and restoration. in numerous areas that we've identified through the Urban Forest Management Plan, where we actively hire a contractor to come in and plant caliper stock and different types of trees, which is huge for diversity and increasing our urban canopy. And we also work with a lot of community groups, as you know, and we plant a lot of trees with scouts, Girl Guides, and other agencies like that, and we plant actively with those groups within the open spaces that we have in town where we want to replant. We also did the Highway of Heroes last year, where we planted a number of trees up here just north of Harwood by the 401. It's another area that we've partnered with another group just trying to increase awareness of the urban forest and move forward planting programs. As well, we've done education programs. One thing that we're particularly proud of is we've launched a tree atlas. This is through some of the education programs. But this tree atlas is really for residents who can go online and they can see what types of trees we plant, get information on it, and they can help, work make a decision on what type of trees they'd like to have planted on the boulevard. Again, we're going to update our urban forest website, on the Town of Ajax website. We're going to update the urban forest part of it. Just a couple of things I'm highlighting. And again, we're planting on private property. We work with an organization called Leaders in the Enhancement of Appreciation of Forests, which is LEAF, a great organization. It's a subsidized program through the Town of Ajax where residents can pay a nominal fee of $150 to $220 for a type of tree. An arborist goes out and actively works with them from this agency to plant a tree in their backyard on private property. So it's huge to help us to increase awareness and plant trees on private property, which is a bonus. And we've had other municipalities come to us this year and want to try and piggyback on LEAF and use the Town of Ajax as an example, taking it back to their councils. So region-wide, it could be a huge success. Again, just another example of how we're leading the way. And again, just to close off, we're partnering with Forest Ontario for 5 million in Durham and 50 million trees in Ontario. So there's a lot going on, a lot of good news stories. And as I said, Emerald Ash Borer, once we're through that, then hopefully we're on the good side of the hill.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crawford?
From the ice storm, thank you, Mr. Chair. From the ice storm, have we replaced all of the trees that needed to be replaced at that time? And was there ever a decision not to replace based on what?
So, through the chair, we did and have replanted all the ice storm trees. There's no more budget or costs associated with that. That program is finished. The only time we wouldn't have put a tree back is if a resident did not want a tree put back on the boulevard. But we make every attempt to try and put a tree back where it was removed either through EAD or when we lost it through the ice storm. So we do try and replace what is removed.
I think residents had a choice.
Pardon me?
I didn't think residents had a choice to say no. On top
We look at it this way, and I'm just going to be honest with you, that if a
Because I
resident...
got one I want.
Well, if a resident doesn't want a tree, and they're adamant that they don't want a tree, we'd rather focus our dollars and energy and give it to people who do want a tree. Because then we have an uphill battle, and we try our best to educate and work with the resident, but at the end of the day, we want to put trees in a place where they're wanted and get them cared for and looked after and appreciated, rather than somebody who we give a tree to that says, I really hate this, and they're constantly calling back and they're not happy and they don't take care of it and being sometimes dying because of lack of
No,
care.
I just, honestly, I didn't think they had a choice.
Yeah, no, we try to work with residents and educate them on why they should have a tree, but in some cases we just don't.
Because I know we gave them a list of trees that they could pick from, right?
We recommend through our arborists and our training and our expertise on trees that are suited for that site, whether a small growing site or a large tree can be planted there, there's wet conditions, whatever the case may be. And then we work with the residents to determine what tree is best for that location from input from them. So they'll go back and do some research and then come back to us and say, hey, can I have this type of tree? And it should be on the list that's provided to them, and they'll say, yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, from the report, you kind of touched on the question we're in the Emerald Ash Borer. When did you realize that we weren't going to be able to, that we were too late to be treating the trees?
So it's not that we're too late. What I mean to say is, in 2012, when we first discovered it, it had been in Ontario since 2000. Discovered in Ontario in 2002. So it was down in the Windsor area.
Mm-hmm.
It was all around us. Whitby had it, Oshawa had it. We just had not detected it yet. And through education and research and talking to their colleagues, it's in the trees, and you just don't know. Like, you don't know it's there. So this insect's surviving and living. It's 2 to 3 years in the tree before the signs and symptoms show up, which is woodpeckers, exit holes. So the damage is already there, and that's what came out of the time between 2012 when we started our plan and what actually has come about. And we're not alone. Other municipalities have found the same, where the treatment hasn't been as successful because the insect's there well prior to treating.
Well, I guess where I'm going with the question is, when we first started the treatment process, which you're saying is in 2012, it was a very expensive process.
Yep.
We made the commitment. I expected we were saving the trees. Now in today's report, and maybe I've missed it before, but it says clearly eventually all the ash trees are going to have to be removed. So why are we continuing this expensive treatment? Like, if we knew that the treatment wasn't catching up in 2014, why didn't we stop that expenditure in 2014 and just remove and replace at that point?
Because the treatment has still slowed down the removal timeframe. If we hadn't have treated, we would have had to remove a lot quicker than what we.
But overall, we would have spent a lot less money just replacing if we have to eventually replace them anyway.
But the treatment costs have come down substantially. So the costs are, like, I think we spent minimal dollars last year on treatment to treat. I have the numbers here in the report, but the costs are way down on treatment. So the cost of the product came way down, and the contracted prices we received have come way down as opposed to removal costs. So removal costs are still relatively higher than the treatment cost if the tree can be treated.
Okay. Are there any trees that can be treated and saved?
Yes, there's still a number of trees that
Okay.
we plan on treating that aren't showing any signs and symptoms. So we are going to try.
That's not what it says in the report. That's why I'm asking the question.
We assume that inevitably emerald ash borer is going to win the battle. So
Okay.
we know the costs are low to treat. We will continue to treat as long as we can. But the research has shown that most trees, if not all trees, have to be removed at some point in time because the treatment will eventually have to be stopped because the insect will be present in the trees and be causing so much damage that it'll have to be removed. Just because the insect will probably find its way in. The treatment weakens, and the insect finds its way in.
Okay. Maybe I'm not saying it right, but this is why I'm saying, why don't we just forego the treatment now and just, if we know what the inevitable is.
I would say no to that because we have a large tree on Harwood Avenue, Tim Hortons, that right now it's massive. It's probably 150 to 200 years old.
Okay.
Yes. The cost to remove that tree is about $5,000. The treatment cost for that tree that we spent today would probably be less than $1,000. And the tree is not showing any signs and symptoms. So as long as we can continue on and preserve that tree for all the benefits that trees provide, carbon sequestration, oxygen, filtering, all that tree is providing huge benefit to us. So when the tree, and if the tree shows signs and symptoms, that's when I'd be looking at removal, but not proactive removal at this point in time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilor Dice.
Thank you. So with the trees that we have to remove in the woodlots and in the forest, I know that in some woodlots there's more ash trees than in others, so it's going to be very visible. Will you be removing the debris or are you leaving it on the forest floor?
So through the chair, the debris is left on the forest floor. When we can't get in to chip it, we leave a lot of the debris in those non-accessible woodlots.
And I know there's many benefits to that.
Correct.
And I think it would be beneficial if we can speak to that a little bit more with the public, because I know last time they saw all these trees go down,
Yeah.
they kind of panic what's happening, and they don't understand why we haven't removed it from the forest floor. And I know it regenerates growth, it's habitat for a lot of animals as well as bugs. So I think, we're going to, council will hear from people and start to see them go down.
Yeah.
I just want to say you've done a really good job, in my opinion, and just to Councilor Collier's comment, I believe that hanging on to a mature tree like that as long as possible benefits everyone. I know that when those trees go down, it has an impact on the neighbors all around it. So it is doing us a lot of good, as we know. And I think also that the bags on the new trees that you're planting, the watering bags, have really made a difference. You've done such a great job with the public. They come out by the hundreds to plant trees. so they watch. And then when we have those really dry summers, they're very concerned about the trees not making it through that time period. So I think making them visible even in neighborhoods is really important. So thank you. Good job.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes. I can't imagine that anyone hates a tree, but
Some people hate cats.
Oh, I hate cats.
amazing. Anyway, glad that I expect that's in the real minority. I just wondered on the LEAF program, what's the limit? I was surprised that only that many, I think it's around 30, took advantage of it, 30 trees. Do we have a limit on that program?
It's a good question. To be honest, I'm not sure if we have an exact limit. I know we're trying to grow the program and create an awareness. I don't believe we set a limit on how many trees can be planted. Again, we're working with LEAF. They really run the program in consultation with us. But we're trying to grow the program and get as many people who want to have trees on private property work through LEAF, so that we can get the right trees in the right place for long-term growth of trees.
And it's a real advantage for someone to
Absolutely.
get that expert advice. So I hope maybe you could find out and we should look at if there isn't some budget constraints that we really do maybe work with communications to promote that program through the spring, because I think it's really, really valuable. And the ash trees, I know that we're looking at using some of the ash in the waterfront pavilion down at Paradise Beach, and I'm looking at Ms. Bridgman. Are there other uses that we can think of as we go along, for example, when we expand ARC or whatever? I think it's nice to see that we have done some beneficial things with the ash trees as they get removed.
So we can continue to look at that. The struggle is there's so many logs right now that are in circulation that there's a backlog, so to speak, pardon the pun, how many logs are actually could be used. So we have a public art piece from a log that was done in Greenwood. We have worked with the TRCA, and they may not have been Ajax's logs, but they're ash logs that we're bringing back into the meadow area. We're looking at any use we can for logs. Again, there's just so many out there right now that it's tough.
Do schools still have woodworking programs or anything?
They do, but schools also have their own ash logs that are generated from school property. So a lot of them that have ash removal, trying to incorporate into outdoor classrooms, or again, I'm not sure they're using the facility for woodworking, but I know they have their own ash logs that are generated.
Well, keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Okay, Councilor Dice?
Just to that, there are many artists that will use that type of wood because of the patterns that the bugs have made in the wood.
Yeah.
That's an industry as well. Have we looked into that?
We have, as I mentioned, we have worked with local artists, and we do have a log that will come hopefully sooner than later that we present an agreement that's been carved, and it comes right from Greenwood and being put back into Greenwood.
But actually selling the wood.
Selling the wood.
Selling it for artists to do as they please.
We'd be happy to give it to you.
Well, you should put that on your website, because they would be interested.
We can look at that for sure.
They kiln dry and they do whatever they do.
We just have to consider some of the liability issues that would come to pick it up, and local artists typically don't have that in their repertoire, so they'd have to partner with somebody else to come and pick it up, because some of these large things you can imagine can be quite substantial, but we can definitely explore it.
Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you for your report. This was for information only. Can I get a mover? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 6.1, execute lease agreement at Bailey Square Civic Facility.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, I'm here to present the lease agreement for the civic facility at Bailey Square. I just want to be clear that the civic facility is just the building portion, that the square is not under this agreement. So the proposed lease begins with a term of 50 years, commencing on July 1st, 2018. The term shall be automatically renewed for 5 successive 5-year intervals as long as the town owns the civic square. The town will not be required to pay a base rental fee as part of this lease. The civic space was designed to support a variety of programs that will be hosted at the civic square and has the following amenities. This presentation of the, and I'm sorry this is not as clear as I would like it to be, it's on your iPads. So the civic facility hosts men's and women's washroom. We also have a universal washroom, water bottle filling stations. We have locker area for people that want to come and lock up their bags while they're going skating. There's indoor seating if you want to escape from the cold and come in and have a hot chocolate. There'll be vending machines available for you to be able to get a snack. We also have an area for our Zamboni and vehicle equipment that will be housed. At the back of the facility, we have the refrigeration room that is used to support the ice rink. And then we have storage area up at the front, up at the back, which will house all of the equipment that recreation will need to be able to program that space. We also have a town staff area, so we have a staff office that has all of the AV and security components that feed into this office. The town will also be responsible for the hydro and water costs for the civic facility and for the square. This has been dealt with through separate meters, so bills come directly through the town, to the town. Upon approval of the lease agreement that was attached as part of this report as Appendix 1, this triggers the approval of Schedule C1, the tenant's work, which identifies the tenant improvements. As part of this, the construction of the civic facility will be managed by Medallion Corporation, similar to the structure that was managed of the construction of the civic square. The cost of the construction will be 100% of Town of Ajax cost. The construction will be completed through a competitive bid process issued by Medallion and in cooperation with Town of Ajax staff. Staff anticipate that the construction will take place from April 1st to June 30th, 2018. And then staff also anticipate the award of the construction of the civic facility will be presented to council on March 19th. Questions?
Councillor Collier?
I'm not stealing Councilor Crawford's question, but vending machines? I thought we were against vending machines. I thought we wanted, we're going to put carrots and celery in, like.
We provided for, through the chair, we provided for an option if vending machines, because we're not doing a concession stand there.
Well, that's my question. Why are we having a concession?
Because as part of the tenant, we're a tenant, but there's also going to be, in the hopes of it to be a vibrant space, there's going to be many other food service providers, and we don't want to be in competition with those other service providers.
Well, that's kind of my theme of my questions. I was hoping, I envisioned this area to be more of that type of thing, pedestrian friendly, lots of different places all around, whether you want ice cream or hot chocolate or coffee or whatever. I wouldn't expect people to have to go inside and use a vending machine.
We made provisions for it in the lease in case that was something that people were looking for.
Okay.
We can or cannot put them in there, but we wanted to have it in the lease in case it was a decision that the town wanted to, for anything.
Okay.
So it's in the lease. If we want to put them there, we can put them there without having to seek permission from the landlord.
Can we find out what is going to be, I guess there's no tenants for the retail space around yet, or is there? Like, when would we know what sort of things are gonna go in around, whether there's a Tim Hortons, whether there's or anything around the square.
Through the chair, I think that is a discussion that would have to be undertaken with Medallion. We don't have that information right now, or I'm not privy to that information. That information would probably be with the planning department.
Okay. I think I'd rather find out what that is before we go ahead with this portion. But just our own type of concession, not concession, vending type thing. Other than that, I think it looks like a great plan. Looking forward to it.
So typically, we don't know who the end users are, but Susan, do you have any insight?
We know they've been negotiating with a number of tenants, but I don't know that any of those have been finalized yet. So at some point in time, I'm sure we'll have that information, but I think it's still in process.
Yeah, okay. Councilor Brown?
Thank you. Who will be in charge of the programs within the square then? Okay. Okay, so because you said we were only in charge of the buildings, I don't, wow, does that mean that we're not in charge of what's going to happen in the square?
So through the chair, Councilor Brown, the lease that is currently in front of council for consideration right now is only specific to the civic facility because the town owns the square. We are leasing the civic space from Medallion for the term of 50 years and then the successive 5-year terms, pending that the town owns the civic square. So those are the conditions of the lease. That's before you for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Dias and Councilor
I may have missed it. I'm just curious if you're putting in the amenities such as bike racks and if you'll have drinking fountains and bottle refilling stations for water.
Through the chair, Councilor Dias, yes, there's water bottle filling stations in the civic facility, and there are bike racks in the square as part of the design of the square. Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes, did we have any ownership or access to parking, the underground parking?
Through the chair, the town staff that negotiated, Mr. Hawkshaw and myself, and various members of Town of Ajax staff, we did try to get parking through Medallion and we're unsuccessful. So we do not have dedicated parking for Town of Ajax staff.
But even for the mayor? Oh my God.
But we have a bike rack.
It's gonna ride his bike.
The mayor's spot is a bike rack? That's okay.
So people that are using the facility, where are they parking them?
There is public parking that's available to people using the civic square. I'm not sure to date if it's a paid for parking. I believe Medallion was moving in that direction, but it's not under the Town of Ajax control.
Because I was asking earlier about electric vehicle charging stations, so we don't have any opportunity there because it's not under our control, I would assume.
As part of the through the chair, as part of the design plan that was submitted to planning, I'm not sure if EV stations were part of that.
I can check to see if there were any required vehicle charging stations in the original development and get back to you guys.
In the future phases, is there parking underneath any of those? There's underground parking?
There will be underground
So
parking
maybe it's
in the
something we
future
should keep in
phases.
mind, part of that. And as well, is there an opportunity in any of the future phases to have another town property lease for a museum or something of that nature? It's always been something that's kind of thrown out there, but never done anything about. And certainly this seems to be the opportune place to have it when we have the monument and so on. Maybe someone doesn't need to answer, but perhaps you can look into that for future days.
Through the chair to Councilor. No, I was just going to talk about the fact that as part of the interior civic design, we are doing a wall dedicated to a lot of the town of Ajax memorabilia. So I know it's been a number of years since we did bring that design plan forward, but there is an entire wall dedicated to all of the Ajax history that will and we've incorporated a lot of Ajax design elements as it relates to like the battles, all the different, the river plate, all of it is going to be incorporated into the design of the city. So.
And I do recall that. I'm just wondering that I think our monument's going to attract a lot of attention, that we may want more than that, more than just a wall. So I'll let Mr. Ford speak.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Richmond says, I think, part of the approach is taking some of that memorabilia, and certainly as council may recall, we've got, I think it's 2019 or 2020, the look at the entire village redevelopment. So yeah, we've heard council loud and clear in the past about the potential for some type of museum type setting, whether that's a full standalone one. But yeah, staff's always aware of that when we're working through any of these plans, but it definitely would be on the part of that discussion point for the village when we look at the total redevelopment of that for sure.
And if you could look at future phases of medallions. I mean, this is going to be the only monument in Canada to women and the role they took in the war. And 9,000 people work there, their families, and stuff. They want to come and learn a lot more about it.
Okay, so would you like to move it?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that carries. So I'm going to suggest a 5-minute break, and we could then go in camera.